What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Nothing New Podcast. I'm Maz and and this is the very first episode ever. The fairy-versed. And we previously did an episode 0, which you can check out if you want it. It was kind of just.
It was mostly just a test.
Yeah,
we did discuss some stuff.
We talked about some stuff, but we're gonna, I guess, just jump into it, as the kids say these days, and just talk about who we are and like what we're doing. So you can go ahead and start, Cheese.
All right, so attempt number 2 at this because I talked for a lot longer than I anticipated. So I'm Cheesefake VG. Call me Cheese. Call me Cheesefake. Call me Daniel. Whatever. I currently attend university, but I am a Twitch streamer who mostly plays on Xbox and PS4. I have some other consoles, but those are my 2 primary currently. I've always been interested in gaming ever since like a young age. Gaming music, gaming news. Yeah, I don't remember what else I said.
Okay. Sounds good.
I'll add anything if you say something that I'm like, oh yeah.
Just interrupt me.
Good. Well, I'm not saying like right away, but you know, everyone knows who you are.
But let me see. My name is Mazadox. People call me Maz or Scott, mainly just Maz. I mean,
even I call you Maz.
Yeah, he's known me for like 12 years almost now, I think. And I feel like I kind of exponentiate that every single time. Like, I feel like it gets bigger even though it hasn't. But he calls me Maz too. But yeah, it
just sounds like an actual name, you know?
It does. It really does. I mean,
but you can't just say Cheese because like that's actual.
Maybe I'll name my child Maz. That would be weird, wouldn't it?
A little bit.
Maybe Idox. How's that?
I like it.
But yeah, I've been playing games for a long time. Obviously, and I mean that's why this is a gaming podcast. I mean, ever since I was a kid, I grew up basically just playing Super Smash Bros. And like that's about it. But it's like over the past like 10 years, it's evolved to where like it's become my full-time hobby. And yeah, I've been streaming for the past long time, basically. Feels like I've been streaming and doing YouTube stuff for.
We've been off and on for
Twitch
for a while. We started like in 2016, and then we went to YouTube, and then we just kind of stopped YouTube and came back here.
Yeah. So that's kind of it. We're gamers doing gamer things, bro. And we wanted to make a podcast. We talked about it for a long time, probably for like. We've like mentioned it on and off for the past like 3 years, I think it's been.
Oh, dude, longer.
So, and now we're kind of finally doing it, almost spur of the moment. Like we kind of just finally decided to do it over the past like week, I would say. Officially, we decided to do it over the past week. So, yeah, here we are, and I guess what are we gonna talk about? What's this about, Cheese?
Like, are you talking about like the general podcast or like tonight?
The general. We'll just start with a basic introduction.
So what we plan to talk about this series is just kind of like gaming news, industry news, like new consoles. Also talk about like, probably we'll talk about like creators for the video games and then just like content creators in general. Well, we hopefully like plan eventually to go to like E3 and PAX and stuff like that. Maybe talk about experiences from that as well. But this is going to be like like a gaming center kind of podcast, but we'll talk about like everything that kind of makes it, the music, all that kind of stuff, not just those specific, not just specifically what's new that's coming out.
Yeah, and along with that, we'll kind of like, I think we're going to be throwing in like reviews and like kind of opinion pieces about like what we're like experiencing. Like I'm sure whenever a big game comes out and one of us is playing it, we'll probably like give a review. Like we've talked about like one game in particular that we've talked about doing like almost a full like podcast on is Celeste, which Cheese has yet to play, but we've talked about how it might be a good option for that. So if you guys are interested in it, let us know and we'll do it. Along with gaming, we're gonna like talk about gaming centered things. Like Twitch. Twitch is all about gaming. I mean, we're on Twitch right now. And so, like, whenever big stuff happens in Twitch, we'll probably mention that you know, to some degree. That's not the focus of the podcast, but it's something that we're gonna talk about if it comes up.
I feel like if we have like more knowledge about it, we'll probably talk about it. But
yeah,
like it might not be a full like coverage thing. It'll just kind of be more of a, hey, this is happening, blah blah blah, stuff like that.
Yeah. And as far as how often it's gonna happen, we're planning on bi-weekly. Basically, I think what we talked about this could change like in the near future. We're still working out the schedules, but I think ideally what we're gonna do is we're gonna be streaming this bi-weekly, so every other week. On Tuesdays at around like 7:30 Central Standard Time. So that's where you can find us, and then YouTube videos are going to be available probably like a day after at the latest. So if you guys miss it, you can go check it out there, and it should be a good time. Also, Cheese, you don't have a face. Do you want to explain?
So I don't have the ability to, like, for my streaming, I don't really have an ability to like use a capture card as of right now. So I felt like I should reveal my face on my main channel. It's not like a hidden thing or anything like that. I've showed my face like long time ago, like 2 years ago. Maz and I did like this 24-hour stream, and we had like pictures of us, like we were showing our faces. We read fan fiction, stuff like that. So so this is kind of like a new thing. So all the people who haven't kind of been with me for this entire time, I feel like I should have like a proper kind of reveal, even though it's not really a reveal, but just kind of on my main channel instead of like never having a face cam there, but always having a face cam here. I kind of wanted to make sure it's kind of all set together.
Yeah, cool. And also the background, while it is beautiful. Oh, well, I guess if you want to know what Cheese looks like, if you see that beautiful drawing I did in MS Paint like a couple years ago, or maybe last year, you can see that is exactly what Cheese looks like. Not the green one, the pink one. He looks exactly like that.
And let me tell you, he drew this like within this year.
He had to pose nude for that to get it that accurate.
Except the bowler hat.
Yeah, the bowler hat, completely nude except for the bowler hat, which covered the important parts.
So I know we were going to talk about Overwatch a little bit, but
yeah,
Overwatch, I got push notifications on for them. They actually just released a video on their Twitter for their skin for Baptiste, like a new skin, and it's I think it says on the PTR, but it's a pirate skin.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm following them, but I don't see it. Oh well, I'll check it out.
I just sent it to you too. Yeah, we'll do it live.
It just happened.
Yeah, literally like 30 seconds ago.
That's pretty sweet. That's a good one.
Yeah, I like it.
Okay.
All right. Off topic, but that was kind of relevant.
Back to it. One thing we're gonna start every single stream with or podcast with is kind of talking about what games we're doing right now. So, what have you been playing, Chief? What's been up with you?
Besides being addicted to Overwatch, I've been playing a lot more story games. Currently, I'm working on 100%ing Spider-Man. I finished this God of War story recently, and I actually intend to go back and not 100% it, but do a lot more progress on it. And then Maz and I were doing A Way Out together, which is actually a pretty interesting game. And then once I finish Spider-Man, and if we finish A Way Out, I'm actually going to be starting The Last of Us 2, obviously the first one, but The Last of Us as well, which I'm actually really excited about.
Yeah. And then,
what are you playing?
And then Overwatch, right?
Yes. Overwatch we're very addicted to currently.
Yeah, we haven't played a lot of that. For me, like we just said, Overwatch, I feel like we're constantly playing, basically. Like, I play constantly, honestly. I open Overwatch like 4 times a day at least, and just play for like 30 minutes to an hour.
If I'm not playing Overwatch, I'm watching or thinking about it.
Yeah, exactly.
One of the two.
But for non-Overwatch games I'm playing, I recently started streaming Dark Souls 3. I'm only like 2.5 hours into the game, and it is kicking my ass, but it's
You're
awesome.
like 25 deaths now?
30. We're at 30.
Oh, we're at 30. Okay.
Thank you though.
Yeah. Had to bring it up.
Yeah, so we're 30 deaths in, but it's been a ton of fun. I'm really loving the game. Honestly, it's like already shaping up to be one of my favorite games I've ever played. That's only 2.5 hours in. I'm loving it so far. And then I've been playing a lot of games on the NES, not the Virtual Console, the NES like thing on the Nintendo Online. I don't know if they have a name for it, but the
I think
NES
that's
on the
good.
Nintendo Switch.
Yeah, that tells you what you're doing, so I think it's good.
So I just beat Gradius. It's pretty fun. Short little game. Pretty hard. Used a lot of save states because I'm not good. Recently beat Mario 2, which was a lot of fun. Working my way slowly through Mario 3. Which is an awesome game. The best Mario game so far that I've played. Well, Odyssey is better. But, like, out of the originals, that's the best one I've played so far. And Mario 2 is freaking weird, but that's beside the point. And then, let me see. I throw in some Pokemon Let's Go Eevee, or Pikachu in the mix, too. I don't like, whenever I play that game, it's kind of sporadically, but, like, I play it for a long time, because I can kind of just, like, chill and, like, listen to a podcast or a show, and just kind of zone out and just play it, because it's, it's a casual game.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's kind of, those are the main ones I've been playing right now, I think. Yeah. And I guess moving on from that to games we're not playing, Apex. Apex is one of the big topics we kind of wanted to talk about today because it has taken Twitch and just everything by storm. So
it's not as big as what it was when we first decided about to do this podcast, because now it's averaging 200,000. I mean, that's still a lot, but when we saw it, I saw 500,000. I saw 550,000. That's just,
let me check what it is actually. Might as well.
That's just an insane amount of numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And then it put Fortnite down, which I mean I'm kind of okay with, but
I mean currently sitting at 103K, but I wouldn't call this prime time necessarily. But I mean, it was averaging a ridiculous number at some point.
Yeah.
And I think currently, a lot of the big tournaments are going on. I mean, Overwatch League, but there's some CS:GO stuff going on. There's a bunch of tournaments happening that are kind of bumping it down a little
season.
bit. Yeah, I guess so. Which I don't know anything about except for. So it's kind of been knocked down a bit, but. I mean, a lot of people are saying that this is the most innovative battle royale that's come out, and it's kind of. I mean, what's your take on it? What do you think about it?
I only played it for an hour, but that was by myself. But I'm more intrigued to play it than I have been with any other BR. But it seems like a game that you definitely need people for. It's not really those kind of games don't really seem fun by yourself, but. From what I've played of it, it's kind of a combination of not all of, but a lot of the popular games. So it has elements of Call of Duty in it, and it has obviously the Battle Royale, which has been a huge genre recently. And then there's also been the Overwatch kind of implemented in it in a way with the abilities and stuff like that.
Yeah, the creators actually said that they were purposefully trying to emulate Overwatch in a way with the heroes and the ultimates, and which I don't think they did. From what I've played the game, I mean for an hour and a half, not very long, but I really don't think that they captured part of the Overwatch where the characters are actually significant. I feel in Overwatch, and I don't know, these ones don't have any personality. The skins are kind of.
Well, Overwatch the game is literally about the ultimates, while I feel Apex isn't necessarily about it.
Their ultimates are pretty lame, from what I see.
It just kind of has that element there, but in Overwatch League, they literally talk about how you have to win and you have to time your ultimates correctly. It's a game. Yeah, it's a huge part of the game. While this one, it doesn't seem like it's as big of a deal of it.
I feel overall. I say this as a person that is not a battle royale player. I had fun with Blackout for a week or so, or a few weeks. I had fun with it.
We played it for a month.
Yeah. I would never call it my favorite game ever, and as soon as I got Overwatch and started playing that took over completely. There's very few multiplayer games that can just consume my life, and Overwatch has been one of them. Apex has not been, and really no battle royale has ever done that for me. It's not personally my genre, but I feel that the path that Apex did take battle royales is probably good for the genre, because there's been innovations. I think from overall what I've seen in the Battle Royale genre is that Black Ops 4 is a pretty basic Battle Royale. Like, there's not a lot of crazy stuff. It's pretty simple. Along with PUBG, they're both, like, pretty standard, run-of-the-mill Battle Royales. Not to discount that they're fun.
Blackout's apparently a more polished version.
That's what I've heard, yeah. Less glitchy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then Fortnite innovated and made it, like, kind of cartoony, which some people hate, some people like it more. And then they added, like, a building aspect to, like, I guess give more tactics or a bit more of a creative way to, like, fight. Which a lot of people hate and a lot of people love. I never played Fortnite.
I played it for also, like, an hour, but I did not like that building element to it.
And I feel like Apex has really actually taken it in a way that I feel like that's a more enjoyable way to innovate on the genre. I feel like they did a good job.
Would you rather play Apex or Fortnite?
I've never played Fortnite. I played Apex for an hour. If I were to pick one, I'd probably pick Apex, just from what I've seen of Fortnite. Fortnite does not interest me at all. So.
Yeah. I never was a huge fan of it, especially with, like, the ridiculous, like, toxicity and, like, the people with it. Like, that really pushed me. And then also, I have this, like, for me, whenever I see something so much and I get recommended it so much, like, it automatically pushes me away and I never want to do it. And that is what happened with Fortnite. Because it's literally everywhere. And then I see Ninja everywhere all the time, too. And both those things, like, immediately kind of killed that for me.
I think I heard somebody say this one time. I can't remember who it was. It might have been, I think I was watching Siegel talk about Fortnite. Like, he was playing Apex, and somebody asked him why he doesn't play Fortnite. And he was like, I hate whenever I'm trying to kill somebody, and then all of a sudden, a building just erupts around them. And I'm like, I can see how that's super annoying. Because, like, part of the fun of, like, playing a shooter in, like, a Battle Royale game is, like, you see somebody, and you kill them. But in Fortnite, you shoot them, and then walls appear around them.
The only thing I liked about Fortnite was they have that bush thing.
Oh, yeah.
That's the only thing that, like, I liked from that. When I play that, I actually got to second place, just, like, chilling in a bush, just, like, running around, just, like, tagging, like shooting at people and then hiding in that bush. Like, that was fun, and that's... it, like, that kind of ties in with that cartoonish feel with it, like... Yeah. But... and, like,
all of what we're saying isn't to discount, like, if you like a game. Like, we don't...
oh, yeah.
We honestly don't care if you like a game or not. People have their own preferences.
That sounds so mean. I don't care.
Well, people have their own preferences. Like, you don't care, really, like, if I like a game or not.
I just won't play the game, most likely.
It's just not our taste, personally.
And then everyone tells us to play it.
Yeah, that kind of gets obnoxious. Another thing to talk about, though, with Apex is, like, a lot of people are saying that this possibly replaced Titanfall 3.
Yeah, there's a lot of resources. I read a lot of articles talking about how they kind of took out elements of what they're going to do for Titanfall 3, and then they just made it into, like, the Apex Legends.
If that's the case, that kind of sucks.
But I mean, realistically, I feel like there's not much they would have been able to add for diversity in Titanfall, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
But this, I think, was a good competitive strategy, because if they didn't do this, Titanfall, it wouldn't have its longevity. Like, by now in Titanfall, I would imagine on Twitch, it would have already dropped.
Yeah.
Like, and then they're also making a lot of money from it. Like, I have a friend who plays Fortnite and Apex, and he tells me that the skins in Apex are actually, like, ridiculously expensive.
Really?
But you don't even buy, like, the individual skins. You buy, like, kind of like a loot box, but they cost so much money. But in, like, Fortnite, you can buy straight up just buy a skin. But
I prefer that system than the loot box system. Like, being able to actually buy what you want instead of, like, gambling, and then, like, if you were to, like, buy a loot box in Overwatch and then you just get coins. Like,
yeah, like I mean, that definitely sucks, but it's bringing in a lot of money. But that also ties into, like, the microtransactions, which is what we're currently every game has, basically.
I mean, like, the strategy of games that are free to play that have microtransactions is you make it free to play so that you fill the lobbies, And then you have, since it's free to play, you have such a massive player base available that you make your money off of selling to what the industry call whales. It's the people that just buy like thousands of dollars worth of items in game that just are ridiculously rich. That's how like Overwatch kind of made its money, because they did sell at a discounted price at $40. It wasn't a full like $60 game, and so a lot of the times they were banking on those whales to get them that money. And like that's the strategy of most free-to-play games too, is to make the money off of the people that spend an absurd amount of money on microtransactions. So whenever the problem though is whenever it's in a $60 game that you paid for. I feel like that's a serious problem. Like in Black Ops 4, the fact that they sell microtransactions. Whenever I paid $100 I bought the season pass too, but I paid $100 for that game, and they hide things behind a paywall. Not things I care about, because I don't really care about that stuff, but it's still it's an annoyance, and it's kind of like a little bit shady in my opinion. It's clearly just manipulation, you know?
Like, there's a point where it affects the gameplay. Like with Battlefront 2, how they did it is like you couldn't get any of the cool characters until like you either leveled up after like an ungodly amount of time, or you spent like straight up $20 for it, and it does actually have an effect on your gameplay. While I don't mind the cosmetics kind of thing, because that's just kind of preference, and if people want to spend money on that, go for it. But for me, I'm not going to do that, just because it's not real. Like, I'm not actually going to be wearing that thing. But if it actually like affects how good how good of a player you are, I think that's kind of when it is very messed up.
Yeah, like pay to win systems in games, especially games that you paid for, is really, really crappy. Like, I remember hearing about that whole Battlefront 2 situation, and I think they were called star cards or something like that gave you like abilities.
They still have that, but it's more of an unlocking system.
Yeah, and I remember hearing this thing, and it was like you have to play like 200 hours of this game to unlock this character, or you can pay this much money to unlock the character. And it's like, really, you basically you allow people that have money to spend to be advantaged over people that just can't. And like, you make the game worse doing that.
Plus, that game it's not just marketed to like adults. Like, Star Wars is such a kind of like it goes from all ages. So the fact that there's kids getting that game, but then they have to spend money still, even though they don't have that money. So they'll either like not get it at all and just kind of keep losing until they get that like 200 hours, or they just kind of like get money from like their parents or something like that. And it's just kind of it's ridiculous.
And I remember, so Cheese and we used to play this game called Combat Arms.
Great game.
We still do occasionally. Like, not very often.
It's been a little bit.
It's been a bit. But we'll drop in and play it again. It's a free to play game. It's a really fun game, and like if you like FPS games, I feel like it's worth anybody's attempt. It's free. Try it. This became a promo all of a sudden.
Hell yeah.
But in the early days, it used to actually be like pay to win. It seems like they've changed it now. But like, I remember first playing that game, and there used to be people running around throwing like the better frag grenades and having the better guns and like a flamethrower that was just ridiculous in that game. And it got to a point where I actually stopped playing because it became so pay to win. Which they've changed the system around now. I think it came into new hands, like a new company took over, and it's gotten better. And now whenever I play it, I don't feel like I'm just being beaten because somebody paid more money.
They took out a lot of that stuff. Like, I think you're just talking about was like that specialist thing.
Yeah.
They kind of got rid of that out of the stores. Yeah, that's definitely a huge part.
So like, it just sucks whenever I shouldn't say game developers. Game publishers prioritize making money over making a good game. So rather than making the experience fun for all of your players, you make a system that prioritizes sucking money out of all of your players.
Yeah.
So, it's pretty crappy, in my opinion. But, I mean, so if Apex is doing that, that's... I mean, at least it's not game-breaking, where it's unplayable, but, I don't know. I still have just a general... problem with microtransactions. Like, they always just feel kind of scummy.
So how do you feel against, like, microtransactions versus DLC?
Well, it depends, kinda. Like, there's certain things that I don't mind and certain things that I do kind of hate. Like, from what I understand, I mean, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, internet, but, like, one of the first, like, well, it wasn't a big DLC, but, like, one of the first DLCs that kind of, like, sparked outrage was in Skyrim. You could get a DLC for horse armor that cost, like, $6 for one horse armor. And basically everybody was super pissed because Bethesda was trying to charge that much money, a tenth of their game, for one, like, thing. And so there was outrage, and I don't know if they changed it, but that was kind of the beginning of, like, paywall DLCs or paywall, like, stuff. Whereas before, it kind of used to be like freeware, where they would continually support the game and then just give you updates and they'd give you more stuff. But after that, companies started to realize they can put stuff behind a paywall and suck more money out of you, even though you already paid for a $60 game. So I have problems with DLC whenever it's clear that this was stuff that was done, like they finished it, and they just decided to divvy it up into DLC rather than saving it to the actual game and just giving it to us.
What about, like, story mode DLC? Like, new additions to the story?
I mean, that I don't mind that too much. It's just the stuff that, like, whenever it's done and then people say, no, save that for DLC. We want to make more money off of that, you know?
Yeah.
I have a problem with that, but, like, for instance, the fighter pass for Super Smash Bros. I think it was like $15, maybe more. I honestly don't remember. I paid for it. To get.
I don't know. I just bought it right away.
Hey, it was Super Smash Bros. I was gonna buy it.
Yeah, fair enough.
To get, like, each of the released fighters, but they made it clear. They were like, listen, this is stuff that we don't have finished, we don't have ready. We're giving you the game now at the listed price because we think it's worth it, and we're going to continue to add more characters. But, like, this is extra stuff. This isn't stuff that we planned and then just held behind a paywall. It's already finished. We're just releasing it in a scheduled block to make more money. This is like, hey, your payment of the season pass is funding us making these characters. So...
I mean, they have that in kind of like not all fighting games, but a lot of them. Like in Mortal Kombat, there's always those DLC characters. And then
those are finished characters. Those are completely finished, and then you buy them with extra money. So they finished a game, and then they were like, no, let's put those behind a paywall. They didn't finish a game, and they're like, hey, we want to make extra stuff. If you give us a little bit more money, we can make this extra stuff for you. It was, we made this extra stuff, and now we're going to put it behind a paywall, and you have to pay money to get it.
But I know with Mortal Kombat, there's a ton of different characters, but, like, I think in 10 I don't remember how many, but there's like 5 additional characters or something like that.
Yeah, and like Injustice does that too.
But, like, at what part does it make it worth, like, that $60 initial buy versus DLC if they do that?
I mean, I don't know. That's hard to judge. I mean, some games I would say aren't worth $60.
Oh,
I mean,
definitely.
like
Battlefront 2.
Battlefront 2, yeah.
$6. That was about the price I would pay for it.
Like, I bought, sadly, I mean, I don't fully regret it, but I bought, I'm blanking on the name right now. Let me, called.
No Man's Sky?
Yeah, thank you. No Man's Sky. I bought that game for $60 at launch. And I was like, because it looked so good. I'd watched all the PR. They were like, hey, this is a finished game. This is a procedurally generated world. And they hyped it up to be this incredible, like, experience. And then you got in the game, and it was just kind of like a mining simulator. You kind of just gathered resources, and that was it.
It
And
was a flaw. It was a huge, that was a huge, I don't know how I'd say controversial, but it was a huge thing
it
that,
was,
the community was excited for and then severely let down.
yeah. And, like, I feel like I was lied to be honest. Like, they made it out to be a certain type of game, and then whenever we got it, it wasn't that game.
For sure.
And
for sure.
now they've changed it. They've updated. They've done a lot of free updates, and I feel like now, personally, not my type of game.
They dropped the price too.
Yeah, but now I feel like it's a game that I would recommend to somebody if they like that genre. It's still kind of No Man's Sky, but they've added so much more to it.
Yeah.
But I feel like now it's actually worth like some money. Whereas before, I would probably pay like $10 maybe for the original No Man's Sky, and even then, that was coming with a ton of optimization issues. It took me like 20 minutes one time to actually load into like the start menu.
Oh yeah.
So it was bad. It was bad. It took a long time, and there's a lot of problems with that game. But now I think it's in a state that they've actually made it a game that I wouldn't see somebody has that and be like, "Ooh, do you regret that?" Now if I see somebody has that, I'm like, "Oh, you like that game," you know? So
I do kind of want to play it with like the new fixes, especially now that I have an Xbox One S. Like, I just kind of want to see it on like the 4K setting. Yeah. But I don't think I would pay $40 for it still. I would pay maybe 20 at most.
Yeah. But I mean, like, that's also coming from us. We're broke. Well, you're not as broke as me, but I'm a broke college student.
I'm still generally broke.
I mean, yeah, exactly. You make more than me, but you're still broke.
Yes.
So, like, you can't afford to just, like, spend a ton of money on video games constantly.
Dude, if I did, I'd have a Switch by now.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, I save for the games I buy. Like, I have to, like, if it's a $60 game that I really want, I, like, save money for it. So, I can't, and if I'm feeling real antsy, I splurge, but, I try not to.
I splurge when things are on sale. That's usually when I splurge.
Like, we've been rambling for a while, so I kind of forgot the original topic, but...
Yeah, we went from Apex to microtransactions to No Man's Sky.
But basically, it's like, I feel that games are worth a certain amount, and developers, or I shouldn't say developers, because it's not really them, but publishing companies take advantage of expectations and take advantage of paywalls to hide content and just suck a little bit more money out of you.
I also like the idea of if the amount of, like, so for example, I have so many hours in Overwatch.
Yeah.
Easily worth the money I spent on it because I have so much time on that game. So it, like, the idea of if you spent like $60 for a game, but you are in love with that game and you've played it for, let's say, like 100 hours and you're still like enjoying that game, that's easily worth like the purchase. But then whenever I had a point here, but I just like that idea of like, that's kind of how that's how I kind of judge games. I'm like, am I disappointed in the money I spent in it?
Yeah.
Did I have fun in the amount of time? Like, I bought like God of War. I'm like 20 something hours into it. I bought it on sale for like $20. That is easily worth that amount of money. Like, I would have spent more. Like, it's normally $40. I definitely would have bought it for $40 because of the amount of time and like the enjoyment I've had in that game.
Yeah.
But then there's like we talked about with No Man's Skies, and then like with Battlefront 2, if I bought that at $60, I would have been pissed. I have a friend who literally got it day of release, and he told me he regrets that hard.
I regretted it, yeah. I got it day.
Like, well, he got Battlefront 2, like that's what I'm talking about.
Okay, Battlefront 2. Sorry.
Yeah, and I told him I got it for like $6, like 6 months later, and he was like, "Dude, I should not." Like, he immediately regretted it, which, yeah, like if you enjoy that game that much and you spent $60 on it, I mean, that's good for you. But as a general consensus, that game was definitely not worth that $60.
I think so. For me, I kind of have a system. It's not that fleshed out, but there's like a few types of games. There's the grindy games, and then there's the games that you just get pure joy out of the actual like game. Like, I would say Pokemon is a bit more of a grindy game. Like you don't enjoy the game necessarily for the story or for like I mean some people
There's a story.
Some people love the combat, and like for me I kind of just like the absent-minded grind of Pokemon and like other like Stardew Valley. That game is a lot more going for it, but I also just love just the gameplay loop of just like I water my vegetables, I go to the mine, I get some stuff, I come back, I upgrade my tools. And I kind of just like that grind. Like something about that is just kind of relaxing and enjoyable. So there's those games, and then there's games like God of War, where the prime enjoyment you get out of it is the gameplay and the story. And so for me, if a game is I solely enjoy it for the grind, I need that game to give me $1 per hour, or 1 hour spent per dollar I spent. So if I spent $60 on a game and it's grindy, I want like 60 hours of value out of that game. Like Stardew Valley, I bought for $20. I think I put like 40 hours into that game, and I love that game so much. That's one of my favorite games of all time. But then there's games like The Messenger, which I bought for like $25, maybe it's $20, and I spent like 18 hours finishing the story. But I love that game so much. So like I have a system where like if it's grindy and I don't get my money back in hours spent, I kind of regret it. And I'm like, really? That's all? I spent this much money and I only got this many hours out of it? But if it's something that just like the story is so good or the gameplay is so good that it's worth it, like the hours spent in that game are worth more than the hours spent in a grindy game, then I don't mind.
Going off of like that, so I told you I finished like the main story, and I'm like 22% done with that game, 25 maybe.
Yeah.
But like that game, it makes me want to go into that world and find out all that other stuff, because of just like there are like games where you'll just play it for the main story, and that's generally kind of a lot of games. Like, I mean, there's definitely like the people who always want 100% every game, but for like the casual gamer, they might just want to kind of complete the main story, maybe some side missions, but not like collect everything and stuff like that. But then there's those games that make you want to do that. Mm-hmm. And then for me, God of War is definitely that kind of game that like I was like I beat the main story and I'm like, yeah, I'm probably done with this game. And then like the next day I'm like, no, nope, just kidding.
Yeah. I'm one of those people that does really like games where you like, I like incentives to collect stuff in games. Like, I haven't finished Mario Odyssey, but I've spent 55 hours in that game, and I'm very close to finishing it. But I guess I'm just bad at the game, because other people say it's easy, but I'm stuck on, like, one of the final bosses that I need to, like, get the rest of the moon. I just can't beat him.
Yeah.
But, like, it's been so satisfying. Like, I've spent 55 hours in that game literally just collecting moons and the region-specific coins. And then it's been awesome. I love that.
I think for games that you want to complete, it's because part of it is there might be more story to that game, but then there's also that part where it's like you just don't want it to end.
Yeah, that's
until you've done everything. Like in Spider-Man, I 100% of the first DLC. If I didn't do that, like there was actually, if you didn't collect like all the paintings in the first DLC, you would not have known about like something that like was like, and they played it like they didn't make it like a huge deal. Like it was literally just a couple lines of dialogue, but it was like if you were invested in that story but you didn't do all the collectibles, there's actually stuff in the story that you are missing.
Yeah,
which kind of gives
go ahead and finish.
I was just gonna say that, and that kind of gives you the incentive to complete it, just so you don't miss like any of the story if you're like solely invested into it.
Well, what I was gonna say is that, like, I think a really good example of that is the Arkham City game.
Oh God, yeah.
And
the Arkham
series,
Asylum
Arkham
too.
series is really good with that, because like I know a lot of people have problems with the combat, but like, cause it is kind of you press Y and then you press X. But regardless, I love those games. Specifically,
and there's also
City.
B and
yeah, there's a few other buttons, but like I love those games, specifically City. And I remember going and completing City partially for the achievements, because I was really big into achievement hunting at that time, but partially because of how invested I was in that world. Like, I was so invested in Arkham City. And there was this one plot line where you go up against Zaz, like this like crazy serial killer, and completing that storyline was like the most satisfying thing ever. That is my favorite part of that game, is the Zaz storyline. And then the Riddler, once you get all the Riddler trophies and you see what happens at the end of that, that's so satisfying. And I feel like Arkham does a really good job of like really making you want to get the collectibles, because it's clear that they're not just collectibles or side quests to like mark off percentage. They're like a part of the world and a part of the lore. And in Arkham Asylum, there's those tapes. Is that what you collect?
Oh yeah, the tapes. You got the trophies, dude. I think those games did a really good job. Like, I think even if we weren't achievement hunters, we still would have done that easily.
Yeah. I mean, part of the reason I actually bought those games in the first place, because I was the one that bought them originally, was because I was like, I want like a game that I think I'll enjoy and can also achievement hunt. So I bought like Arkham Knight and Arkham City and Arkham Asylum. And
how many copies of those games do we have? Because you bought one, I bought one. The remaster digitally on the Xbox.
That's a lot. We do have a lot. Yeah. But if you're looking for a game that like, just like I feel like the story and the world really sucks you in, I feel like Arkham is a good example. And I'm sure Spider-Man is too. I haven't actually played it, but
Spider-Man's really good, especially because. But Spider-Man, actually no, I was gonna say Spider-Man has the advantage, but I'm like, but it's Batman, so it's kind of the same thing. Yeah, where they already have kind of like that fan base where you're like, I'm a huge Spider-Man fan, I'm a huge Batman fan, so like I'm already invested in this game. But then playing it, like all the characters, like the sound, just like the element of it feeling real, literally pulls me in, and I'm just like. Literally, yesterday I was streaming Spider-Man, and I was like, I'm gonna get off at 1. I ended up playing that game till like 3:30 in the morning, and I had to wake up like 4 hours later, and I'm like, immediately regretted that decision when I woke up. But I was like, I was so into the world, like I didn't want to get out, you know?
Hey man, I was so invested in Super Mario Brothers 2 that I played till 4 a.m. too. That world sucked me in with all those turnips that I had to pull out of the ground and throw them at frogs. Really sucked me in. So, not a good segue, but another thing we need to talk about.
We can just transition it to like what we talked about before I went to class today.
I don't remember what that was.
About like February and the games and stuff.
Oh yeah, we can talk about this along with Anthem too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, I guess let's just kind of talk about Anthem first, and then we'll get into that. What's the deal with Anthem, Cheese? What's up with it?
I mean, that was a game that came out closer to end of February, but there was so many ads for it, and there was so many so much hype for it, and there's open betas and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, it's a quote-unquote full release game now for $60, but then I haven't played it yet, and I don't think I will, honestly, for quite some time if I do. But it kind of looks like a Destiny-esque theme thing, and I heard a lot of things about it. But then I hear how broken it is and what it can cause. Like, we talked about earlier about it crashing systems.
Yeah, literally crashing PS4s.
Which would actually piss me off if that happened to me. And then, so, I mean, transitioning that into, like, we were talking about on Discord before I went to class, about how a lot of games in February ended up being broken, and you had some examples.
Yeah, I'm trying to recall them now, but basically...
Can't be put on the spot.
I'm trying, I was listening to you, and then I was like, wait, I have something to say, but I don't remember what. Basically, a lot of games, that people are saying, is that a lot of games that may have been planned for, like, the typical big game October to December release, like end of the year is like where big games get released, and front of the year is kind of where the smaller titles that just kind of keep you invested a little bit, or they get released in the front half, and then back half is the big games.
The Christmas,
it's holiday season.
Christmas gifts.
Yeah,
basically.
Yeah,
like they just like kind of a way to describe that. If a game came out in January and it's like a smaller game, if that came out in November, it would be over flooded with like more anticipated games, so that game won't get as much recognition in that time.
So, like, a lot people are thinking, because a lot of big games actually came out in February, but they've really come under lukewarm reception, both from critics, which is kind of hard to do. If you know video game critics, it's kind of hard to get a bad review. And really bad reviews from people. Like, for example, Anthem, it was like, it looked good, and they, like, promoted it like it was going to be a really good game. They, like, I was actually excited for this game around, like, November, whenever, like, we started seeing ads, and I think we saw it at E3, we got some footage of it, and I was like, wow, this looks like maybe a better version of Destiny. Destiny wasn't really my thing, but, like, I did waste a bunch of time, but then I got sick of the grind and stopped. And Anthem kind of looked like a bit more unique version of that, with, like, the I can't remember what they're called, but the suits that they wear that are basically like Iron Man suits, like, it looked really cool. And the bosses looked super cool, like these giant, like, enormous, monstrous bosses. And I was like, man, this might be a good version of Destiny. And I was getting excited, and then the beta came out, and it was like, well, there's a bunch of glitches in it, and, like, the AI acts really weird, and everything kind of feels like a bullet sponge, like there's no real challenge aside from just, like, putting more bullets into it. And then the game released in full after the beta, and it crashes systems, and every single mission can be, like, put down into 3, like, categories of just, like, fetch quests, and then go kill some stuff in a dungeon, and then, like, that's it. Like, that's the 2 versions of things. There's no inspired missions, and the storyline is, like, bland. It's just like Destiny. That's basically just, like, it's like Destiny 3.5. It's like Destiny in an alternate reality, where everything is the same.
Why is it 3.5?
Oh, there hasn't been Destiny 3. 2.5. It's Destiny 2.5. That's what it is.
I was just like, you skipped Destiny 3, okay.
and then there's what's that other game that came out? I'm blanking on the name.
Far Cry?
Far Cry, yeah. Far Cry New Dawn came out, and that's garnered some pretty lukewarm reception and bad reception from people.
I just love that term, lukewarm. Lukewarm.
I bet anybody named Luke gets really uncomfortable when people say
I feel weird just saying it, because I always just think of a Luke, and I'm just like, man.
So, like, and it's Far Cry. Some people liked Far Cry 5 more than... Was it 5? Yeah, 5. Far Cry
5 was actually really well received, while 4 was very
Yeah, I hated 4. I liked Far Cry 3, because it was the first Far Cry I ever played. I feel like it was the first Far Cry a lot of people played.
I feel like it's the first Far Cry many people played.
Yeah. And, like, I loved Far Cry 3. Looking back, it's not as good as a game as I remembered when I was younger, but I was excited for Far Cry 4 based on that, and then I started playing it, and I got, like, 3 hours in, and I was like, this is literally just Far Cry 3 again. And then you look at the game map, and it is the exact same as Far Cry 3. Literally the exact same.
Yeah.
Like, there's barely any discrepancy behind it. So, like, they just copy-pasted the map, basically. But then Far Cry 5 came out, and it got a little bit better reviews from what I understood.
It's actually a lot better, I think, because I think Far Cry 5 in general was much higher, while Far Cry 4... okay, well, IGN, it's like an 8.9.
Yeah, but you know, game. They give everything a high score.
I'm trying to see.
But with the Far Cry New Dawn, they kind of did something new and interesting in that they continued the story from Far Cry 5. Because from my understanding, everything other than those games have not been connected, really. Like, they've kind of been individual stories.
Yeah.
And so everyone was kind of hyped for New Dawn because it was continuing off the back of the well-received Far Cry 5. And it came out, and it was just another Far Cry. And I don't know what people were expecting, to be honest, because that was my experience with Far Cry 4. Part of the reason I didn't buy, like, Far Cry Primal or Far Cry 5. And to me, I feel like they've really just turned what was originally, starting with Far Cry 3, like, a hyped series. Like, everybody loved it. And they've now turned it into, like, a Call of Duty, where it's just the same formula, just spit out again.
I mean, we've seen this with...
nothing original.
We've seen this with other games, like Assassin's Creed.
Yeah. Which I'm glad they innovated with Odyssey. I'm glad they changed it a little bit.
Yeah, I heard, like, they were good, and then they kind of stopped getting bad, but then people still played them. And then they actually, like, from what I can tell, I haven't played it yet, but Odyssey was significantly more appreciated.
Which is good. Like, I honestly don't like Ubisoft games that much. there's some exceptions, but like overall,
Uno.
I don't know. Ubisoft games just kind of feel cheap to me. Like whenever I play them, like Plants vs Zombies, that game, that just kind of feels like I don't know, feels cheap.
That's the best game in 2019, man.
And like Assassin's Creed, it's like they have more money put into it, but I still feel like a lot of the longevity of the game is really artificial, where they just put collectibles that don't mean anything like all over the map, and it's like, oh, collect those for some reason. And like that's the whole end game, is collecting like scrolls or something.
Killing Templars or whatever.
Killing Templars. And it's like, really, that's your end game? It's just killing a bunch of stuff for no apparent reason. And so those kind of disappoint me in that way. But I guess with Odyssey they improved on it a bit, which I'm happy. But it's still like, I feel like like Far Cry is starting to do the same thing, where it's just like, we're an annual series, we release a new game. But it's the same game, and people buy it because it's a name. Same with Call of Duty, and where they just stagnate. And from what I understand, Far Cry New Dawn is no different, and just generally disappointing. Like nothing feels unique or inspired or anything. So, yeah. Basically, what we're saying, which we didn't. Here's the thesis. The thesis is.
Here's the thesis. Here is our
publishers hype these games up, but then they realize they're not good enough to release. They're not good enough to compete with the big games in the end of the year, and so they just release them in February. They're like, this is not as good of a game to compete with the games that are coming out right now, so we're just gonna dump it for February, and we're not gonna try and compete because we can't. And so they may hype, so like now February, I'm kind of nervous about future games around the front of the year, and that it's kind of just gonna be a dump of just these games could have been good, but they're not. So
I feel like I haven't really been hyped for a game in February for quite some time.
I mean, like Kingdom Hearts 3 came out January 29th, so that was kind of February. But like overall, from the reviews I've seen, it's kind of gotten reception. Like it's a good game, but it's okay. It's not that good. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm sure people who loved it, but overall, I mean, there's
just those. It's just kind of like the blockbusters come out around the same time of year, which kind of sucks because that's where all the investments or the resources and investments are going into.
But you know what the good news is? Indie games are amazing, and indie games are cheap, and indie games are made year-round, and that's honestly where most of my time in video games goes, is toward indie games. Because they're cheaper. I get a lot of love out of them. I mean, Stardew Valley. Let me see. What else? What else we're talking about today? Oh, Overwatch League. Yeah.
I was literally just saying you said Stardew Valley, and I was about to say Defran.
Oh yeah, Defran just went live because I got a notification.
Oh really? Man, what time?
Is he playing Stardew Valley? Probably.
Definitely.
Yeah, so OWL, if you don't know, is the colloquial term for Overwatch League. I bet you can't guess how they got that. And
I like that big word you used.
Colloquial? Yeah.
Yeah, good word.
Thank you. I'm working on my vocabulary.
Word of the day.
So, Season 2 of OWL is now live. They're on week 4 currently, I believe, or week 4 starts Thursday.
It's week 3. You just
of Stage 1. And I'm sure a lot of people in the future, because we don't have any listeners right now, a lot of future listeners don't care about like esports or anything like that, and I didn't. I did not give a crap about esports until I started getting into Overwatch, and now I'm so invested in Overwatch League, and I can't believe it. I've become one of the esports people. It happened.
Esports is actually a lot bigger than like it used to be. Like it's huge now.
It's weird. And like I feel like I'm living in the future. Do you? Like I told you one time I went to a restaurant and they had like, I think Contenders was on the TV, like multiple TVs in the restaurant. And I was staring at it and I'm like, we live in the future.
It's just weird because it doesn't feel real, Like it feels like it's just like a part of a movie. Like it's something that's happening right now, but it's like it's such a drastic change for like the majority that it's like, man, like it's insane how many people watch video games like as an esport.
And like we're one of them now. I wasn't until like 3 weeks ago.
I was interested in it, but I never really got into it. Like I kind of like I respected it, but I didn't really watch it.
Same.
You know?
Like whenever people like laugh at esports being like, whenever somebody would be like, "Oh, esports isn't a real like sport. It shouldn't be in the Olympics or whatever." I was always one of those people that's like, yeah, it's a real sport. It takes skill. It takes talent. It takes practice. It takes like some serious like talent to do this stuff. It's not just like, oh, he presses buttons on a video game. He's not like a, that's not valuable.
Dude, some of the reflexes they have are freaking insane.
So
it's scary.
But I personally wasn't interested until Overwatch League now. So yeah, there's some, and a lot of the stuff we planned like weeks ago, and so it's not really relevant anymore to this topic. But I think it is worth it to talk about kind of the community's reaction to Overwatch League, and like what, because like if you're not a part of the Overwatch community, you may not like know about all of it. It's consistently around like what, 30,000
that are watching.
Before Overwatch League, it was usually around like 30,000 watching.
It was like 15,000 to like 20 something. Yeah.
But like that's a decent amount. You know, I don't know what it was before a while.
I hate when people go like, Overwatch is dead. It's like, yo, this game is 3 years old and it has like this many viewers. That's just insanely big.
That's what I'm getting to. In the community, a large portion, or at least a very vocal minority, likes to just say the game is dead and that nobody plays it and everybody like hates it or something. And yet Overwatch League comes out and one Overwatch League peaks at like 200,000 viewers. It usually hovers around like 130 or 150, but like 200,000. Like
it was literally #1 for that entire first night.
It is not a dead game by any means. And a lot of people like to claim it is, but like this is like a pet peeve I have. I swear this is like a, what is it? A positive reinforcement loop? What is it called? Or like a positive feedback loop.
Oh, okay.
That's it. Where people say a game is dead, and so people start thinking a game is dead, and so they stop playing the game, and so the game dies. I swear that happens, and I think that happened with zombies in a lot of ways. People started thinking the game was dead before Black Ops 4 even came out. People are like, oh, zombies is dead, the zombies community is dead. And so everybody started talking about how zombies is dead. And then people got less interested because they're like, well, the community is dying. And then now the community has kind of died, to be honest. And I feel the same is happening with Overwatch. But I'm just pissed because I'm afraid it's going to kill Overwatch. That everybody is like, oh, Overwatch is dying, Overwatch is dying, Overwatch is dying. And it's like I'm scared it's going to happen to Overwatch.
I don't think it's going to die, at least for a little bit. I think with zombies, though, people weren't reinvigorated with the 4th game.
But like it didn't. But it was before the 4th game even came out that people were.
But like
being like
there were zombies, but like they were talking about like like World War II zombies and stuff like that. There's like there's zombies in basically every Call of Duty now, but it's really Treyarch zombies that are kind of like the main feature.
Yeah.
But a lot of people were overhyped for Black Ops 4 zombies, and then a lot of people were let down. Yeah,
that's true. Which I think was the nail in the coffin, but the zombies community was already laying down in the coffin before that happened, you know?
Was that a pun intended?
Huh? Oh. No, but you know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's a positive feedback loop where if everybody in the community is shouting, or a small minority is shouting loud enough, that a game is dying or a community is dying, it's going to kill the game, you know?
I don't think it's going to be like an instant thing, because like we said, when Overwatch League is up, dear lord, it has many viewers. Like it's like, even if like 10,000 people say it's dead, there's still that 150,000 people watching it. Like it's obviously not dead. It might slowly push away people who haven't played the game yet or watched it, but the people who are already in it are still very invested into it. And then Blizzard, Blizzard does a really good job at just kind of keeping people addicted, you know?
Yeah.
Like with like the new heroes and stuff like that are coming out. Like if they stopped adding heroes,
Overwatch would probably die.
I don't think it would be dead, but I don't think it would be like even on whenever it's not Overwatch League, I don't think it would be as big as it is.
That's for sure. Because like
so
Blizzard keeps it alive in some ways, but I feel like in some ways they don't act enough or respond in the correct ways. Like with the Reaper buff that they did. And sorry if you guys listening don't play Overwatch. I know we're kind of getting into a bit more technical stuff with the game specifically, but they buffed a character called Reaper. And he is known in like the lower ranks to basically just torment people because he's extremely effective at close range, but basically ineffective farther away. And so the lower ranked people can't fight Reaper that well, but at a higher level, he's so ineffective that he's rarely used. And so Blizzard buffed him so that he was worse at lower ranks, but it didn't really change anything at higher ranks. So basically, they kind of just made the game worse for the majority of people, and didn't really change anything at the higher level, which is what the point was to like try to take down the GOATS meta that had taken over, and they failed at it, and then they just made it worse, and now they're kind of stepping back and reducing his buff.
I mean, they even try to get rid of GOATS with the Brigitte nerf, but you still see it in OWL like all the time. Personally,
with all the buffs that have happened and the nerf that have happened, I do think GOATS is gonna die. Like they buffed Junkrat. Yeah. Junkrat can be a pretty good counter. They buffed Doomfist. Doomfist is a pretty good counter. Sombra is looking really good. And like I feel like they're doing a good job to where now I think GOATS is going to be on its way out. But probably for OWL's first 2 stages, I think it's going to be mainly GOATS. Maybe in the future stages, it'll kind of start dying and people will start finding the new meta.
Yeah.
Which, you know, maybe will be a lot of DPS. Which this current meta GOATS, a lot of people hate because it's like the characters that don't do any damage that are played the most, so they're kind of like the least exciting to watch in some ways, and so a lot of people in the community really hate this meta and want the meta to shift, and which is part of the reason that they're saying it's dying, is because like we have a meta where it's like encouraging less skill based and more just like death ball compositions.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know. I think Blizzard overall does a good job of keeping the community alive by keeping updates and adding new characters and maps. I think they should add some more game modes maybe, or like some other stuff. But I'm happy with Blizzard.
If GOATS is boring, watch the Fran and
watch Rain.
Atlanta Rain grab. No, it's Paris.
I know. I know.
Oh, okay.
I was saying watch Atlanta and watch Chengdu because Atlanta whenever they play GOATS, they play it super entertaining. And
watch Atlanta Rain's grab on Hollywood against Paris.
That was insane.
That was beautiful.
People say GOATS is boring. I don't think it's in some cases it is, but watch Atlanta Rain's grab against Paris Eternal. God,
literally blew my mind.
You could probably just look that up on Twitter and you'll find it. Just
easily.
Look up Defran grab. You'll probably find it. It's insane. And yeah. I don't know. Now I'm just like in awe thinking about that again.
Dude, I know that grab was beautiful.
Gosh, that was crazy. But yeah, I mean, it's just a pet peeve I have about people just claiming a game is dying, and it's just like, really, it's just kind of. I feel like you're making it worse.
Yeah.
You're just exacerbating the problem. You're making everybody else think it's dying. So, I don't know. Trying to think. Is there anything else we wanted to talk about?
I don't think so. I think we covered. We talked a lot more about stuff we didn't plan on.
No, I feel like that's kind of gonna be how it's gonna go.
Oh, easily. We're just gonna have like general topics, and then we're just gonna go from there.
We're gonna it's a podcast, but the topics don't matter. It's really just us rambling. Like I remember forgetting how we got to the conversations a lot of times.
I remember the transition. It was like Apex, and then it was like buying the skins, and then it went to microtransactions, and then to DLC, and then like investments of time and money in the world, and Batman.
The worth of games.
Dude, we talked about like Apex for like a half hour. or
even though it wasn't
45
about
minutes.
Apex.
Yeah, exactly. We talked about it. I was like, it's all right. We kind of played it.